Welcome to webinar number 11 of the PACE Pilot Implementation Series. Before we begin today's webinar, I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for being a part of this process and coming together as a team week after week, learning and taking action and taking your business to a whole new level. I've been receiving some amazing feedback from each and every one of you on how your alignment as a team has increased, how your energy has gone up, and I can tell you one thing, we're just getting started. Now let's quickly review the journey we've taken so far through these webinars. The objective of this webinar series was to set you on a fast track to build a win-win-win business. Like I say in every video, the foundation of everything we do is to build a win-win-win business. The idea of adding value to customers so that they win, the idea of fulfilling the aspirations of team members so that they win, and the idea of fulfilling the aspirations of the business owner so that the business owner wins is a simple yet a unique idea. Most of the world works in a manner where the business owner and the team members are not collaborating. They're actually competing against each other or combating against each other, where the team members are thinking, what's the least I can do and maximum I can get? And the business owners are thinking, what's the maximum I can derive from my team and the least I can give? But in our world, we change the game. We say, let's come together, make a joint commitment to contribute to the business so that the business becomes capable to fulfill the team's aspirations as well as the business owner's aspirations. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for believing in this philosophy and taking action one step at a time. While we've done this entire process, you've been implementing this system called as the PACE system. So let's review what are the tasks that you've done so far. We started the PACE system with the first stage, which was the aspiration creation stage. This was where you understood your team's personal aspirations, you created a business aspiration goal, and you defined your common purpose and you named the goal. Then we went into the second stage of the aspirations of the PACE system, which was the analysis stage. This is where you did the analysis of what can come in the way of you achieving your aspiration goal. We identified the root causes, and then we went into the third stage of the PACE system, which was the awareness stage. This is where we learned that there are 3 screws to enhance the performance of our business. The first screw we need to focus on is clarity. The second screw is competence, and the third is culture. And when we focus on these 3 elements and we enhance them, we accelerate the performance of our business. Then we went into the fourth stage of the PACE system, which was action planning. This is where we learned that there are 4 quadrants of action planning, and only when we plan for these 4 quadrants do we have a holistic plan to prepare ourselves to achieve our aspiration goals. Now, like I said, the first 4 stages of the PACE system are just preparation. The real game is in the 5th stage, which is the achievement stage, and that's the stage we are in. And in today's webinar, what we are going to be covering is the tactical meeting structure in the achievement stage. In the previous webinar, I shared with you the strategic meeting framework, which you do once in 45 days for 1 full day. And we said that the objectives of the strategic meeting were, firstly, completion to review the previous 45 days. Secondly, competence development to make sure that every person receives feedback from every other team member. The third objective of the strategic meeting was creation, using the PACE system for creating a 45-day aspiration goal, doing the analysis of the problems that can come in the way of achieving the 45-day aspiration goal, and doing the awareness and action planning of the 4 quadrants for that 45-day goal using weekly milestones. And then the fourth and the final objective of the strategic meeting was celebration, where we acknowledge and highlight the key contributors. Now, you understood the template of strategic meeting and the power it can bring to your business performance by just stopping for that 1 day once in 45 days. In today's webinar, we're going to focus on the second type of meeting, which is the tactical review meeting. Now let me tell you this, if strategic meeting gives you the energy, tactical meeting gives you the results. Tactical meeting is the essence of performance in any business. So let's dive into the structure of the tactical meeting. Here's how the tactical meeting works. Tactical meetings are meetings that you do once in 2 weeks. Remember, strategic meetings is once in 45 days. Tactical meetings are once in 2 weeks. And tactical meetings are not for a full day. Strategic meetings are for 1 full day. Tactical meetings are for 2 hours. So I want you to start understanding that the dynamics change in a tactical meeting. Strategic is more overall. Strategic is more bird's eye view. Tactical is more hands-on. It's more about the results. It's about the performance. And it's quick. It's a 2-hour review meeting. Now, like I said, the frequency of this meeting is once in 2 weeks. Now, most people again ask me this question, Rajiv, why don't we do weekly tactical meetings? Why do once in 14 days? Well, I have a simple logic to it. I find 1 week too short a time in a small and medium business for people to keep coming back into a meeting. I want to make sure that people have the space to go out there and perform and produce something tangible. So I believe that strategic once in 45 days is good and tactical once in 2 weeks is pretty good. Okay. Now, however, if you have a weekly review system that is already working for you, then my request would be to adopt this meeting agenda into your weekly meetings. If not, once in 2 weeks is perfectly perfect according to me. So frequency once in 2 weeks, duration 2 hours. Now let's look at the objectives of the tactical meeting. There are again 4 objectives in the tactical meeting. The first objective of the tactical meeting is completion. Now you've heard this word before in the strategic meeting, right? So the objective of completion in the context of the tactical meeting is to do a holistic review of the previous fortnight, of the previous 14 days. What had we set as goals for the previous 14 days? Have we achieved them? Have we not achieved them? So the first agenda is completion, which is to do a holistic review of the previous 14 days. The next objective of the tactical review meeting is coaching. Now this is where the objective changes from the strategic meeting. In the strategic meeting you had completion and competence development. Here it's completion and coaching. Now in the tactical meeting is where we hold people accountable. We hold them accountable with respect and focus on solutions, and we do that by coaching them. And you will learn a coaching framework through this webinar video this week, which will change the way you manage and accelerate the performance of your business. So the second objective is coaching. The third objective of the tactical meeting is celebration. Now this is where we acknowledge contributors. Now the celebration in a tactical meeting is different from the celebration in a strategic meeting. In a strategic meeting, you physically give somebody a trophy or an award or a certificate. In a tactical meeting, you don't give them a physical award, but you highlight key contributors and you at least give them a round of applause and acknowledge their contribution. So that's the objective of celebration in a tactical meeting. Then the fourth and the final objective of the tactical meeting is creation. Now you've heard this word before again in the strategic meeting. In the strategic meeting, you do creation for 45 days. But in a tactical meeting, you do creation only for the next 14 days. So you focus on what is it that we need to achieve in the coming 14 days. So let's do a quick review of the 4 objectives of the tactical meeting. The first word is completion. The second is coaching. The third is celebration. And the fourth is creation for the coming 14 days. Now keeping these 4 objectives in mind, let's quickly review the agenda template of the tactical meeting. So I hope you've received the email with the tactical meeting template in soft copy. I need you to have that in front of you while I take you through the agenda sheet. Now, like the strategic meeting, even this template has the time defined for each item on the agenda. The agenda is defined in detail. The name of the facilitator can be included in every item of the agenda. And you have key highlights and key action steps that has to be made a note of by somebody who's playing the role of a scribe in the meeting. So the structure and the layout of the template is the same. The agenda changes in a tactical meeting. So let's dive into this agenda immediately. So keeping the objective of completion in mind, we look at investing the first 10 minutes of this meeting into the completion objective. Now what do we do in these 10 meetings is we review the goals that were set for this period. So we put out the goals that were set for this period in front of the team. So if you finished a strategic meeting, in the action planning, you would have broken down the 4 quadrants of action plan in a weekly milestone. So you take a 2-week goal which was due for this date of the tactical meeting and you put that out in front of the team saying, hey guys, this was our financial goal, this was our customer centric goal, this was our team centric goal, this was our functional system goal, and this was our learning goal for this fortnight. So you make sure that there is clarity of what was the goal and you do a quick review of what is done and what is not done at the level of the team. So this is a more macro review of objectives for the meeting that were due to be done and what is done and what is not done. So this is your 10-minute of completion agenda. But the real magic of the meeting happens in the next 35 minutes. This is where the coaching objective comes forth. Now what happens in the coaching objective is we need to do an individual review. Yes, this is where we do an individual performance review of what was done by each individual, what was not done by each individual, so that we can hold them accountable for what was not done. Now, each individual will again have their goals clearly defined for every tactical period. And based on their goals for the tactical period, we do an individual review of each task and each goal element, saying what was done, what was not done. Now, anything that is done is a breakthrough. And when you identify that a person has delivered a breakthrough, then we give them a round of applause and we acknowledge their contribution. Now, anything that is not done is called a breakdown. Now, I want you to get used to these words. Anything that is done is a breakthrough. Anything that is not done is a breakdown. So anything that is not done has to be shared, saying, hey, this was my goal for this tactical period, but this is not done, this is a breakdown. Now, let me tell you one thing. The moment people think of the word breakdown, most people's energy drops. They feel guilty, they feel ashamed, they feel sad, they feel angry, they feel all sorts of negative emotions. First thing I want to establish is you need to change your relationship to breakdowns. Breakdowns are not negative. Breakdowns reveal what we don't know about achieving that goal. Breakdowns actually show us the mirror of what is missing in our approach so that we learn it and we make progress. So when there is a breakdown, don't go down. Okay, make sure the energy is high so that we can emotionally be intelligent and learn our lessons to make progress. Now, people ask me, but we are using the word breakdown. Can't we use another word? Look, let's be real. If it's not done, it's fair to acknowledge it as not done. There is no point hiding or covering it up for the sake of positivity. We got to be real and neutral in our emotion about breakdowns. We don't have to have remorse over it. We just need to learn and make progress. Remember the rule. It's fail fast, fail differently. So here's what we do in the 35 minutes of coaching. What we do is we get every individual to share what was their goal for these 14-day tactical period, and for each item of the goal they need to share whether it's a breakdown or a breakthrough. So people do this exercise in writing. Now they do this exercise in writing using a framework that I call the 3 R's of accountability. 3 R's, the alphabet R, not 3 hours. Okay, so it's the 3 R's of accountability. So we do this as a written exercise. So coaching happens through writing, and you will see this framework is extremely powerful. So these are the 3 R's of accountability. The first R of accountability is called review. Now this is where we do a review, revisit our goals, and we answer 3 questions as review questions. Please make a note of these 3 questions. The first question is, what was the goal? So every individual on a sheet of paper individually writes what were their goals which was agreed upon. Remember one thing, you can't hold someone accountable to something that we had not agreed upon. So the goals before every meeting have to be clear, only then we can hold them accountable. So when you close a strategic meeting, you need to have a clear tactical goal for the 14 days. When you close first tactical meeting, you need to have clear goals for the next 14 days. So the goals have to be clear at a level of every individual. So here's what we do. Here are the 3 questions of review. What was the goal? What is done? What is not done? Now this is common sense review questions. So we get every person on the team to answer these 3 questions in writing. What were the goals? So they list all their goals. And what is done? What is not done? So these are the review questions of accountability. Up to here, it's simple, it's common sense. Then comes the next R, which is called the reflect questions. Now this is where we ask another set of questions which allows us to reflect and allows each team member to reflect on their challenges. Now, let me tell you what is different about the reflect questions. In the traditional world, typically when we are holding somebody accountable, we ask them the review questions. What was the goal? What is done? What is not done? Now, after we ask them these 3 questions, in the traditional world, the next question that most people ask is, why was it not done? Now I want you to think about it. Let's reflect on the question, why was it not done? Now if I ask my team member, why was this not done? What will they come up with? They will come up with an explanation for why it was not done. Now that explanation will sound to me like an excuse or reasons. Now the question I need to ask myself as a business owner or as a team leader or a team manager is, do I want reasons? The answer definitely is no, I don't want reasons. But the beauty is this, I am asking for reasons by telling the person, why was it not done? And when they're giving me reasons, I am getting angry and frustrated saying, don't give me reasons. So if you do not want reasons, don't ask for reasons. That's the common sense. So what we need to ask is another question. Instead of asking, why was it not done? We need to ask this reflect question. So please make a note of all the reflect questions. The reflection questions are these. We ask the question, what stopped you? Please make a note of this question. What stopped you? Okay. What was missing from your end? Please write this question down. What was missing from your end? Then the next question. What did you learn from this experience? What did you learn from this experience? And then the fourth reflection question, which is, where else is this pattern showing up at work? Where else is this pattern showing up at work? Now if you look at the structure of the reflection questions, these are designed, like the name suggests, these are designed for the team member to reflect, to see based on what was not done, what stopped them, what was missing from their end. So people will reflect and come up with answers like, what was missing from my end was I did not plan effectively, or I did not communicate and ask for support, or I did not have the required skill set and I did not raise an alarm for it, or I was not focused on the goal, or I left it for too last a minute. So people will come up with these habits that stop them from achieving the goal. See, the presumption here is most people know what needs to be done, know how it's supposed to be done, but they still don't do it. Because this is an execution challenge. This is an execution gap that every human being faces. Now what we want to do is, through these reflection questions, is get people to get aware to their pattern of lack of execution so that we can change the pattern. And that is possible only if people reflect. So to get them to reflect in a responsible manner, we ask them to write the answer to these reflection questions. What stopped you? What was missing from your end? What lesson did you learn from this experience? And where else is this pattern showing up? Now the third question, what lesson did you learn, is an important one. Because keeping the culture of fail fast, fail differently, we want people to learn their lessons and change their behaviors. So when we ask them to reflect on what lesson did they learn, it's becoming like a commitment to self, saying, you know what, I need to change my planning, I need to change the level of focus I put in, I need to prioritize better, I need to communicate more, I need to make sure I'm more focused towards my goals. So we are getting people to create lessons that will empower them to become more competent as a team player and as a performer. Now once they learn their lesson, we also want them to reflect on where else is this pattern showing up. Because fundamentally as human beings, we are slaves of our habits. So if one area something is not working, it's highly likely that the same habit is showing up in other areas as well. So we want to use these reflection questions for people to identify the pattern of where else is it existing so that they can break the pattern. So the fourth question of where else is this pattern showing up at work is a very powerful question which helps people to step back and see what needs to change at a macro level from a behavior and action point of view. Now once we've done the reflection and we've helped people identify their lesson, then we ask the third set of questions of accountability, which are called the results questions. So remember, it's a review, reflect, and results. Three types of questions. Review questions, what was the goal, what was done, what is not done. Reflection questions, what stopped you, what was missing from your end, what lesson did you learn from this experience, and where else is this pattern showing up. And finally, the results questions. This is where we ask people the question of what will be different from your end. So we get people to make a commitment. What will be different in your attitude? What will be different in your approach? What will be different in your behavior? So what will be different different from your end? And then the next question of what will you get done? and by when will you get it done? So these questions actually lock in a commitment saying, okay, now whatever was the breakdown, when will I get it done by and what will I get done? So this is a set of 3 types of questions which actually coaches people towards a solution and holds them accountable in a respectful manner. Because the biggest mistake I see in businesses when it comes to accountability is most people treat accountability as character assassination. You cannot blame a person, put a person down, be sarcastic with them and expect them to feel empowered and produce a result. The focus here is on solutions and progress. There's no point doing a postmortem and assassinating a person's identity. We don't want accountability to become a space for personal conflicts and ego battles. We want accountability to add value to the team, to add value to the business. And we do that by asking review questions, reflection questions, and results questions. So how do we do this in 35 minutes? Here's how we do it. We give a sheet of paper to every individual. They write their name on top. Questions are given to them. We give them about 15 minutes to answer these questions individually. Now, once they've answered these questions individually in detail, now the key rule here is when you're answering these questions, don't just write one word. Write sentences. Think through it and write sentences. Be elaborate. Because while you're writing sentences, you're actually programming your mind. So we get people to answer these review, reflect, and results questions over a period of 15 minutes. Once they are done answering these questions, we get people to stand up one by one and read out what their answer was so that everybody knows what was the goal, what was done, what was not done, what stopped the person, what is the lesson learned, what is the pattern, what will this person do differently next time, who will the person be differently, and when will they get it done. Now we give every person about 60 to 90 seconds to read out their answer, so it becomes a commitment to the group. And at the end of the exercise, the manager or the business owner collects the sheet from every individual for their records so that it can be used at the time of giving feedback or mentoring the person or even appraising the person. So it becomes factual data. So that's what is the coaching exercise in the tactical meeting structure. Now just doing this will bring enormous amount of accountability and focus on results within the team. And what we are doing is we are making sure that while we've broken down the strategic goal for 45 days, we are breaking it down further into 14-day goals, and we are holding ourselves accountable to achievement of what we created. So that is the 35-minute coaching piece in the tactical meeting. Now once we've done that, then we've also covered, if you notice in the coaching piece, the acknowledgement part of breakthroughs. So when people say a breakthrough, we just give them a round of applause to make sure we recognize their contribution to the business. The remaining part of the meeting is all about creation. Now, in your strategic meeting, what you've done is you've created an action plan with weekly milestones for the 45 days for financial, customer-centric, team-centric, functional system, and learning-centric goals, and the 4 quadrants of action planning. Now, while you've done that on a weekly basis, the goals you've created on a weekly basis in the strategic meeting is just version 1. Now, in the tactical meeting, you take those goals for this particular relevant period, which is coming of 14 days, and you check whether those goals are realistic. Does something have to be added, which is a backlog, or does something have to be removed so that the goal is realistic? So we make those changes and we create smart goals for the next 14 days for the team as well as for every single individual. Now this is where you go into detailing of planning for 45 minutes on what is the smart goal for the team for the next 14 days and what is the smart goal for every individual for the next 14 days. So that's your 45 minutes of creation. And then from there, you open the floor for 10 minutes for people to share any challenges, any concerns. Now, in the tactical meeting, there is no root cause analysis exercise. There's purely sharing of challenges and concerns. And if there are impromptu solutions that we can provide to people or brainstorm for 15 minutes, that's perfectly okay. Or we give people the assignment to do a root cause analysis on their challenge and then come back and have a discussion with their reporting manager or the business owner on the solutions for those root causes identified. So we create a 25 to 30 minute open space for sharing of challenges, brainstorming of solutions, or sharing any other victories or any other updates from the workplace. So we keep that as a fluid structure. And finally, we close the tactical meeting with a review of what was the key takeaway, what was the key lesson for every individual. Now you follow this system. I want you to start imagining this. You're doing strategic meeting once in 45 days, and in between you're doing tactical meetings once in 14 days. How many of you realize that just by doing the strategic meetings consistently once in 45 days and doing the tactical meetings once in 14 days and holding people accountable, you are making progress towards that aspiration goal? I really wanted to start seeing this. I told you this in the last video, so I'm going to add an element to this. Your annual aspiration goal is like a cake. Your 45-day strategic goal is a slice of the cake that you've cut and you've put on your plate so that you can eat it in 45 days. Your 14-day tactical goal is the piece of the cake in your spoon from that slice. So you will finish this piece in the next 14 days. Okay, and then the next webinar we'll be talking about your operational meeting, which is your daily goals. That is the piece of the cake in your mouth which you're eating on a day-to-day basis. This is how we complete eating the entire cake of your annual aspiration goal. We take it one step at a time, and we use these coaching frameworks, creation frameworks to make sure you're on track and the energy of the workplace is high. So with that, I'm going to leave you with your task for the week. Your task for this week is to make sure you start implementing the tactical meeting structure once in 14 days. And in the next webinar, we'll be talking about the operational meeting, which is your daily meeting, and we will be talking about that as the conclusion of the PACE system. So once we close the 12 series of webinars, the only thing you do is the stop meeting framework. You do strategic meetings once in 45 days, tactical meetings once in 14 days, operational meetings every single day, and you will be on track for achieving your aspiration goals. So with that, this is Rajiv Taleja signing off. Please do watch and read the instructions on the email, facilitate your tactical meeting, and share with your coach your challenges, your victories, your observations, your lessons, and your feedback. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you so much.